What if the most dangerous demon isn't the one who confronts you, but the one who destroys everything behind? You're back until you're begging for the end. He appears without warning, emerging from the fog of silent pacts, riding a shadow wolf, sword in hand with hollow eyes. His name isn't whispered in ordinary summoning circles. He's called only when even other demons are too afraid to act. Andras, the executor, the soul eraser, as the new occultists say. But in Hell's hierarchy, he's more than an enforcer. He's the blade that strikes where Lucifer wants no trace left behind. Why would Lucifer need an executor? And why do even the most experienced sorcerers fear summoning him? This story begins before the Middle Ages, before the grimoires, before Andras was feared. It starts when the scars of heaven's rebellion were still fresh, but Hell's order was yet to be forged. Is chaos a punishment, or a tool created by those who rule it? After the fall, Lucifer wasn't just seeking power. He demanded absolute loyalty. It wasn't enough to win. He needed silence. That's when Andras was shaped, not as a prince, not as an advisor, but as a symbol of rupture, a spirit forged to destroy not only bodies, but alliances, covenants, empires, and even memories. What if the true enemy of peace was never hatred, but the whispered discord sown by Andras? Apocryphal reports and forbidden manuscripts speak of a demon who never asks, only acts. They say his appearance marks the end of something or someone. But what few know is that according to the Grimorium Verum, Andras only appears when summoned by a superior, which means when Lucifer commands. What does Lucifer want erased? Why would he send a destroyer into his own infernal structure? In 1231, Inquisitor Jacques de Molay wrote in his journals of a name that kept appearing among condemned cultists, Andras. But alongside the name was always a warning. Do not summon the executor unless you no longer wish to be the summoner. Is Andras a sign of the hidden power collapsing, or the one force holding it together? In Goethe's infernal cosmology, Andras is listed as the 63rd spirit, but his real rank might be far closer to the throne. There are signs that he acts as Lucifer's living shadow, not just erasing enemies, but silencing allies who dared too much. Would you trust a god who sends demons to silence his own followers? That's exactly what happened in Spain. During the plague of 1347, entire Luciferian cults were wiped out. No human intervention, no witnesses, only scorched symbols, broken pacts, and Andras' mark, etched in blood and ash. But the question no one dares to ask is, if Andras acts as the executor, who has he already silenced within the rebellion itself? And who's next? What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments. The celestial wars didn't end with the fall. They just changed territory, and it was in the abyssal corridors of the first infernal fortress that the true face of the rebellion began to take shape. Lucifer, now enthroned as the sovereign of chaos, quickly discovered the burden of ruling what was never meant to obey. Fallen angels, divided by vanity, ego, and ambition, had become more dangerous than the archangels they left behind. Hell needed a new weapon, one that wouldn't judge, only cut. That's when Andras emerged. What if peace among the fallen was only possible because someone was secretly sacrificed? The forbidden texts of the Liber Obscura, a manuscript attributed to a rogue monk from the 11th century, describe a singular moment. A closed circle, no chants, no summoning, just Lucifer drawing words of power in blood. And Andras appeared, not as a servant, but as the executor of a higher pact, to silence, with blade and shadow, any fallen angel who threatened the fragile order of hell. There are no testimonies, only ruins marked by symbols, names slashed out of grimoires, and the sudden disappearance of demons who once commanded legions. Why does history only remember the visible traitors and forget those who vanished without a trace? Andras's power doesn't lie in his roar. It lies in the silence that follows his passing. The discord he spreads isn't random. It serves the purpose of dismantling dangerous factions, clans that grow too strong, legions that dare question higher orders. He doesn't act on impulse. He acts on command, but something even darker remains. The oldest grimoires warn, Andras can also act when he senses a rupture, threatening the balance. Even without orders, even without being summoned. What if the chaos isn't caused by him, but by his absence? Lucifer, as ruler, understood that not all traitors scream. Some kiss his hand. Others swear loyalty while hiding ancient ambitions. For them, hell doesn't send armies. It sends Andras. One touch, one cut, and their names are erased, even from their bones. During the Council of Darkness, a legendary gathering of the first 13 fallen, there are symbolic records of a mysterious absence. The seat meant for Fornis was left empty. No explanation, no mourning, only silence. Centuries later, occultists began linking this event to the appearance of an eerie mark carved in stone. A decapitated wolf surrounded by crossed swords, the symbol of Andras. How many more have been erased from history for threatening the reign of the light-bearer? Hell is not chaos. It's ruled by law, laws written in blood, silence, and shadows. And when those laws are broken, Andras's name isn't spoken. He simply appears and resolves. If this struck a chord with you, like the video and hit the hyper button to help spread the word. Not all chaos is disorder. Sometimes it's exactly what was planned. Some believe hell is the result of a mistake. But what if it's the outcome of precise calculation? A fragile balance between screaming and silence, between the fire of rebellion and the blade of restraint. This is where Andras becomes more than an executor. He reveals himself as a hidden mechanism within the infernal structure. He doesn't just eliminate, he reorganizes. He reshapes the board when the pieces threaten the game. What if what we call chaos is just the system cleaning itself? The apocryphal book Citra Ara, buried in the Vatican's underground archives and labeled non-examinatus, describes Andras as the necessary error, a spirit that acts when the structure begins to collapse on itself, not out of vengeance, but preservation. There's no compassion in his mission, but there is logic. Behind the destruction lies the geometric blueprint of order. It was the same during the Akkad incident, when an entire Sumerian civilization mysteriously vanished. Occult priests claimed they had received knowledge from the spirits of cutting wind. A month later, their temple sank into sand and silence. No excavation has ever uncovered bones or remains. Only one tablet survived. It carried a single name carved deep into the stone, Andras, who defines punishment. When justice is delivered by something beyond good and evil, Lucifer didn't need to command. Andras felt it. Babylonian grimoires record a chilling phrase. When the balance bleeds, the executor moves with eyes of emptiness. And that is his signature. Andras doesn't speak. Andras doesn't scream. Andras simply moves, like a black tide that washes away anything threatening the reign of the light-bearer. But there's a deeper mystery. In recent decades, modern occultists have reported a recurring presence during rituals where no entity was invoked. An energy of rupture, family feuds, sudden career collapses, unexplained betrayals, and all of them report the same symbolic vision, seen in dreams or fevered trances. A white-eyed wolf, ridden by a naked man with a feathered head and an inverted sword. Has Andras gone beyond the limits of hell's hierarchy? Or was this Lucifer's plan all along? Among the 72 names of the Goetia, no other is feared more by those who have seen him act. There is no pact that can bind him. The only certainty is, if he has arrived, it's already too late. Subscribe. What comes next is even darker. Not every demon destroys with fire. Some just whisper, and the world crumbles on its own. In the realm made of screams, silence is power. And Andras, who never needed to shout, rules hell through something even deadlier. Discord planted at the root of alliance. He doesn't invade, he divides. With just a few words, he poisons councils, breaks pacts, topples fortresses, all without lifting a single blade. What if the true apocalypse is just one misplaced sentence, whispered into the right ear? Renaissance occult records describe Andras as the one who doesn't answer questions. But when he does speak, his words plant fatal doubt. Do you really trust that oath? Why did Lucifer choose him, not you? Who told you the pact still holds? These phrases don't echo. they embed. And when they come from the mouths of leaders, wars begin. In the secret treaty known as the Manuscript of the Abyss, hidden on scrolls preserved by the Black Order of Strasbourg, there is an account of a ritual experiment. 3 magi attempted to summon Andras as an advisor. They wanted to foresee betrayals and manipulate the politics of 2 rival aristocratic families. 2 days later, a brother murdered his own brother. A marriage was annulled. The castle burned with no witnesses, and the 3 magi vanished. On the ground among the ashes, a single inscription in reversed Latin remained. Et discordia erit scriptur, and discord shall be the scribe. Why does Andras speak so little? Because once he does, you can never silence what he said. In the infernal hierarchy, where betrayal is currency and vanity is fuel, Andras moves like an invisible virus. His presence isn't celebrated. It's feared, even by the princes of the abyss. Some say even Belial avoids conspiring near him, because Andras has no side. He has a function. He doesn't serve Lucifer. He maintains the hidden symmetry of a reign that survives only when the threat comes from within. What if hell won't be destroyed by celestial forces, but by the seed of collapse planted by a silent ally? And something even more disturbing has emerged. Modern occultists report a growing phenomenon: protection rituals that work against every demon, except one. Andras, his sigil, when drawn incorrectly, reverses the energy of the circle. He enters, he watches, and he leaves, but everything that was united falls apart. Share this with someone who needs to see what was kept hidden. Have you ever felt someone turn against you out of nowhere? Maybe it wasn't them. Maybe it was him. Andras doesn't need to cross portals. He walks among humans. Where there's doubt, he hides. Where there's suspicion, he feeds. And where there are bonds, he cuts. For centuries, scholars of the occult treated Andras as a distant, infernal entity, bound to the rituals of the Getia. But an ancient Spanish grimoire dated 1472 reveals something many chose to ignore. Andras doesn't need to be summoned. He's drawn by a scent. The scent of betrayal, or the fear of it. What if every broken friendship, every ruined pact, every couple torn apart, carries the same whisper behind it? In the forgotten chronicles of the Black Monks of the Abbey of Alcobaça, there's a disturbing account. All spiritual leaders of the order, in just 3 weeks, began accusing each other of heresy, adultery, poisoning, and devil worship. Nothing was ever proven, but by the end of the month, the abbey was empty, burned to the ground, and one phrase remained, scorched into the stone walls of the chapel: trust is the first sacrifice. Andras doesn't act out of ego. He is a symbol of collapse. His presence can be felt in groups that divide, families that fall apart, religions that turn on each other, societies that claim to be just, yet rot from the inside. What if Lucifer never needed to lift a finger against humanity? Because he left Andras among us? Modern occultists claim, when you dream of conflict with people close to you, when you wake up and something feels off, but you can't explain it, that may be the trace of Andras passing through. He doesn't break alliances, he breaks their meaning. And the most disturbing part? No one notices right away. Discord is gentle, it drips slowly, until it poisons everything. Symbolic records suggest Andras's true weapon isn't his sword, it's his gaze. To lock eyes with someone is to seal their fate. A series of subtle, invisible breaks, until their world implodes. What if it's not bad luck or karma, but the breath of an unseen presence slipping through your alliances like wind through doors? Andras acts in silence, but his mark is unmistakable. Where he passes, no one trusts anyone anymore. Have you ever wondered about this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever noticed that every empire ends in betrayal? Maybe Andras was there. From the very beginning, governments, churches, corporations, revolutionary movements, all of them at some point collapse from within, not because of known enemies, but by unseen hands pulling invisible strings. And that's exactly when Andras manifests, not as an invader, but as a whisper planted at the top. What if the true engine of history isn't power, but sabotage carefully crafted by an ancient spirit? the dark manuscript of Venetia, locked away in the Malatestiana library under oath of silence since 1543, describes what monks called the cycle of Andras. 3 phases. 1. The rise of a charismatic leader. 2. Growing suspicion within their inner circle. 3. The inevitable betrayal, always from someone close. Names like Julius Caesar, Joan of Arc, Rasputin, and even modern religious leaders appear as victims of something historians can't explain. But occultists know all too well how many historical downfalls were blamed on politics, when in truth, they were the result of an invisible infernal force. Symbols of Andras have been found in ancient crests, secret seals, and even hidden carvings inside Christian cathedrals. A man riding a wolf, sword pointing backward, not toward the enemy, but toward his own ally. That's his specialty, to make the blade come from within. Behind closed doors at the Vatican during the Council of Trent, one of the Church's most strategic gatherings, unofficial records mention an unidentified spiritual force influencing the most controversial decisions. Agreements shifted overnight. Allies turned to rivals. Documents vanished. No angel was blamed. No demon was summoned. But the mark of a wolf with burning eyes was found carved in wood at a nearby monastery. What if Lucifer doesn't want to destroy the world with fire, but to plant a spirit that makes it collapse from the inside out? Andras doesn't show up in common rituals, but he appears where too much power is concentrated. Because his role is simple and eternal, nothing grows too big without facing discord. In secret meetings, political chambers, esoteric temples, or multinational boardrooms, the pattern repeats. Brilliant ideas, sungskum. Strong bonds. Then paranoia, a division, collapse. It's not coincidence, it's structure. It's the signature of something unseen. Like this post, if even one part of it made you uncomfortable. What if even the most loyal executioner one day looked at the throne and thought, I could do better? In the beginning, Andras was just the blade, the sword without judgment, the hand that struck without hesitation. But over time, the blade began to think. Among the 72 spirits of the Goetia, few remain completely silent about their desires. Andras is one of them, but absolute silence is never empty. It hides calculation. It hides strategy. What if the executioner didn't just follow orders, but quietly kept track of the king's mistakes? In the halls of hell, there are legends not found in any grimoire, whispers that circulate only among demons themselves. Stories of a night when Andras refused to obey an order, not out of failure, not out of mercy, but out of doubt. This tale, told only among advanced summoners, says that Lucifer once commanded the execution of one of his own generals, an old ally said to hold a secret about the creation of the infernal hierarchy, and Andras stood still. Then he said, not every enemy is more useful dead. What happens when the sword that always cuts begins to judge what should or shouldn't be cut? It was the first and only time the executioner ever spoke, directly to Lucifer as an equal. And the light-bringer said nothing. He simply stared for a long time and walked away. Since then, Andras has been summoned less often, but felt more deeply. Hell doesn't run on love. It runs on power and balance. And every power system, sooner or later, breeds an unpredictable element. The one who knows too much. The one who executed the traitors and realized the real problem may lie at the top. What if the chaos Andras spreads is just a rehearsal for something far greater? Something he hasn't yet revealed? Some occultists report that in recent decades, rituals involving Andras have begun to spark strange visions. Images of an empty throne, a wolf without a rider, and a crown impaled on swords. Symbols found in no known tradition, yet repeating across mediums, dreamers and mages alike. And that has fed a forbidden question among demonologists. What if Andras is no longer loyal to anyone? What if he no longer serves chaos, but himself? Today, Andras doesn't ride wolves. He sits in meetings, dines in silence, and destroys with a single message. He no longer needs rituals, no invocation circles, not even occultists. Andras lives in the algorithm, In the subtle suspicion growing inside group chats, in the unanswered email that sparks doubt, in the offhand comment that ruins a partnership. What if true demonic power today isn't found in graveyards, but in midnight messages? Andras's ancient role, to divide, to implode, to unravel, has evolved with the world itself. Now he feeds on chaotic narratives, polarized opinions, disposable friendships, and fragile deals. Discord became a commodity, and where there's value, there's spirit. According to records from the Esoteric Order of Vienna, founded by dissident psychoanalysts in 1924, Andras doesn't need to cut off heads anymore. He makes people walk away on their own. He plants invisible questions. Is he still loyal? Is she really on my side? Why is nobody answering me? And then he watches as trust dies of natural causes. What if modern pacts aren't broken with blood, but with unexplained silence? Researchers of digital occultism have noticed a pattern. Influencers, entrepreneurs, spiritual leaders, activists, they rise fast, then suddenly find themselves in the middle of internal scandals, strange betrayals and unexpected collapses. And most of them report the same thing, the eerie feeling of being watched. Not hunted, just observed. Andras doesn't want fame. He wants collapse. And now he's mastered the art of leaving no trace. No ritual, no smoke, just the surgical precision of breaking bonds. If hell used to be symbolized by fire, brimstone, and flames, now it manifests through notifications, strategic silences, sudden removals, and unexplained fallouts. Andras has become the symbol of something greater. The collapse of human connection, families divided, societies fragmented, churches against churches, people turning against themselves. What if hell won without ever declaring war? That's the most elegant kind of victory, when discord becomes normalized, when everyone believes they're right, and no one trusts anyone anymore. In this world, Andras isn't feared, he's embraced. Tag someone who would dare to watch this until the end. You don't need to summon Andras. You just need to act like him. Argue, doubt, distrust, break, repeat. This is the new cycle. And maybe the plan was never to dominate, but to teach. From the beginning, Andras was a tool, but he was also a dark mirror of humanity, a reflection of what happens when trust is replaced by control, unity by paranoia, loyalty by calculation. What if hell was never meant to destroy us, but to make us identical to it? Lucifer realized early on, direct submission sparks resistance, but subtle imitation eats you from the inside. Andras never shouted, never preached, never asked for followers. Yet now he has millions, all acting in the name of their own truth, cutting ties out of pride, planting doubts like seeds in fertile ground. And the scariest part? They think they're right. In the forbidden manuscript titled Devolutionem, found buried among the ruins of the Detradusol bookstore in Prague, there's a forgotten prophecy. When discord multiplies without a master, the executor will rest. For the world will have learned his function. What does that mean? That Andras's goal is to become irrelevant, because everyone is already doing the work for him. What if there are no more victims of the executor? Because now everyone is executing each other. Think about the past few years. How many relationships died over crossed messages? How many friendships ended over misunderstandings? How many ideas were crushed before birth? By fear, vanity, or ego? Andras doesn't cut anymore. He inspires. This isn't about an invisible force. It's about behavior, replicated, normalized, celebrated. Discord has become a lifestyle. And where does that lead? To silence. Not the meditative kind, but the kind that's left when no one trusts anyone anymore. Andras is near the end of his mission. And that's not a relief. It's the loudest warning, because a world that no longer needs him is a world that has already become hell. If this disturbed you, that was the point. Leave a comment. What if chaos was never the goal, but rather the silence left in its wake? The executor fulfilled his duty. Andras divided legions. He broke eternal pacts. He imploded empires, turned alliances into suspicion, turned people into reflections of himself. Now he walks through a world where everyone is suspicious. Everyone is armed. Everyone cuts ties just to avoid being cut first, and he no longer needs to raise a sword. What if the hell we fear so much is nothing more than the repetition of human choices misunderstood as freedom? The final order of Lucifer, according to the apocryphal Gospel of the Abyss, was never written. It was felt, recorded only by a blind scribe on a scroll without ink. The message read, "When absolute silence reigns among brothers, my will shall be complete. No fire needed, no screams, no bodies. Lucifer's victory will be marked by the complete silence of all connection. When love is seen as weakness, when forgiveness is mocked, when trust is labeled foolish, and then Andras will rest, sitting where thrones once stood, listening to the only sound he ever craved. A world silenced by fear, alliances killed by doubt, and discord normalized. What if there's nothing left to destroy because everything's already been abandoned? You won't see Andras. You will be tested by him, not in hell, but in the moments when you could have reached out and chose to turn away. When you could have spoken, but chose silence, the kind that kills more than any blade. Now you know. And knowing is the first disobedience to the plan. And if this is real, write your truth below.